Hi, it's Thad with Willow Way Nurseries. We're in the last week of July, heading into August. We do a lot of trims, wrapping up in August 1st with perennials. But you can see we got some really nice plants. People are talking about fall color and summer color. In perennials, there's a lot of options here. This Zebgreb coreopsis, you can see, just loaded with flowers. You know, I like to show people the roots. We have really nice root system on them. Just a really great plant, as you can see. I only have a few behind the house here, so get them while we're getting there. But really nice, compact, long blooms on this. If it starts to get floppy, you can give it a trim. These won't need a trim probably for the rest of the year, but it is something I wanted to talk about, was the perennial trimming. So if you're going to trim, you got to get it done this week. There's only a few plants that we don't trim, or we found that can be trimmed later, and that's because when they re-break, they don't harden off fully. And so if we get an early frost, you could have issues with the plant actually making it through the winter, or that new growth that came being damaging the plant because it put energy into growing out. So we'll do like salvia late, nepeta later, even roses. On the rose side we trim later with our split trim still. And that will go into September, but after September then it gets a little bit dicey about doing it. So if you're unsure if you need to get something trimmed, then you should probably do some trials on it. We've done quite a few trials here in the nursery. I wanted to talk about a plant that's coming into its own right now. It's the Japanese anemone, the fall blooming anemones. This one's curtain call pink. You can see, it's going to be hard to see a little bit in the video, but it's a really nice dark pink. Lots of buds just starting to come up on it. We got good root system in it, so you can see there's nice rooting there. The one thing I like about the Japanese anemone, they were a little bit of a challenge to us because they tend to get floppy. Our plant health has done a great job of using PGRs correctly, and we've kept it down to the smaller stature, which does better in can production. This plant will get a little bit bigger in the landscape setting, so you'll get up to about that 2 feet, so 18 inches, 24 inches. But a really nice plant. We have lots of nice plants here. They're just starting to come into bloom. The buds just started opening this last week, so this is one that's coming up on the radar, and we have lots of other varieties in the Japanese fall blooming anemones that are coming along. So as we get into this more into the later season here, we'll have lots more of these to add in. Hi, want to share a little more summer color going into fall is Phlox paniculata. Flame Pro Purple is this particular one. As you can see, lots of show here. We've got lots of varieties. This will range from whites, pinks, purples, even almost kind of a reddish color in some varieties. As you can see, really nice display, really good. We do trim these back. They need to be regularly trimmed back to keep them full. And what you'll see sometimes on the bottom is they'll start to, as they get really, they use all their energy to push up into these flowers. And so some of the interior lower leaves that aren't really value added for the plant, it will take the energy off of those, and sometimes you'll get them be a little leggy looking if they do. So trimming helps to take that away a little bit, to keep them a little bit shorter. So there's lots of different ways to manage this particular plant. If you do trim it, you need to get shade on it, and you need to control the water. If you took too much water, the water use goes way down when they get trimmed, and they need that shade to kind of bounce back out of it. Hi, one other really great fall or summer until fall, basically into frost, color plant is Rudbeckia. This one happens to be Rudbeckia Little Susie. As you can see, really nice plant, just starting to come into a little bit of color. We do some split trims on this crop so that we always have them kind of at peak, where we don't have any spent flowers on them. That's just not necessary in the landscape or at the garden center, but for us, we want to have them really just showing their peak. That's why we do roses with split trims, and a lot of our crops get a split trim, so they're just perfect coming. As you can see, a really nice crop. There's really full, nice plants. They're canned up really full and heavy. So there's a lot to this plant. We'll just shake off once you get into the landscape. So Rudbeckia Little Susie. I want to talk about a little more fall color. Really comes on late in the spring. But really comes into its own when we get this summer heat. It's Pravaskia. This particular one is Pravaskia Little Spires. Really nice, upright, really nice like blue, purple flowers on all of the spikes. So you get lots of nice color. Again, we've got really nice rooting on it. really ready to go plants, strong. We got a really nice crop of it here. So it was one that I wanted to kind of talk about with fall color. The other thing to kind of wrap up the video today is talk about growing degree days. We're at 1993, so we're kind of wrapping down on some things, but some notable things that you really should be watching for right now. One would be at 1940, magnolia scale, I talked about a little bit in our last video, is you have egg emergence. So you really got to watch right now. And I talked about the sooty mold or the black. You'll start to see on the interior of magnolias that are infested with that. So just be out scouting for that if you're around, because it's one that if you miss this window, you're kind of dealing with it in other ways, like scraping them off. But they are treatable. So, and if you're using oil, you want to make sure you're using a summer weighted oil. So that's under 2% horticultural or ultra fine oil. Don't use a winter dormant oil rate, which would be more than 3 to 5%. So you want to stay under 2, especially with this heat, and watch the warmer days. Really anything over 85, I'd really be skeptical of doing any kind of spraying out in the nursery, because you could have a chance of having some burn or some issues with plants. The other things that are out there is Viburnum opulus, the European viburnum. That's coming in ripening fruit, and we start to get banded ash clearwing borer. It'd be right now in that range, like that's like 1970, and then we're coming into some other plants, like there's Viburnum dentatum. The fruit will start to be ripening right now, so that's another indicator plant for this time of year. You'll start to see the berries start to turn a little bit of a color to them, that more of that purplish color. So some good indicator plants to help with identifying when some of these insects are emerging.